All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Welcome to the Office of Public School Construction's fifth workshop of the virtual training series. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Ng, as Brian mentioned, and I'm a program analyst primarily for the school facility program and the career tech program. In this workshop, I'll be giving an overview of the OPSC Online System, discussing what the system can do, and I'll be doing a demo on some of its features. If you're unfamiliar with the system or haven't tried it out, this overview is going to be a good place to start. I'll be providing information on setting up an account, providing resources for support, and going over how to use the system. Even if you have used OPSC Online before, there's a lot of features in the system that I'll be going over that you may not have been aware of. So I think you'll still be able to get some good useful information out of this too. So before I start, I want to mention a couple of things about the presentation. First is that this is just an overview of OPSC Online. The system has a ton of features, so there's really not enough time to go in depth on all of them. We do have our other virtual training series workshops coming up that I recommend checking out if you want to see what else OPSC Online can do. And I'll mention some of those workshops at the end of today's presentation. Second, the screenshots you'll be seeing are from a test environment that was created for demonstration purposes. And so all the applications and the data in this environment are just dummy data and not reflective of actual applications. And then lastly, I'll try to go slow and pause at certain points. And this is just to give everyone a chance to digest the information and to make sure I don't lose anyone. Okay, so now I'll go over the agenda for this workshop. First, we'll discuss what OPSC Online is and why you should use it. I'll show you how to access the system and I'll go over account setup. We'll also talk about the different types of roles you can have in the system. Then I'll briefly go over funding applications and application version management, and I'll discuss eligibility applications and how to navigate eligibility baselines. Then I'll go over the OPSC grant calculator, and after that, I'll share some resources and other contact information. And then lastly, we'll have a Q&A at the end. Okay, so first, what is OPSC Online and why should you consider using it? Well, OPSC Online is a web application where you can submit, track, and manage requests for funding in a completely paperless process. It gives you access to SFP applications electronically, which replaces a lot of the stuff you used to have to physically mail into our office. We haven't fully integrated all of our processes to online yet, but we're working on doing so. And since it is a web application, you can actually access it anywhere with an internet connection just by using an internet browser. You can use OPSC Online with Firefox, you can use Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, but it's optimized for Google Chrome, so we recommend using that. So why should you use OPSC Online? Well, there's a ton you can do with it that will ease the process of submitting applications to us. First, you can sign, certify, and submit applications electronically. You can also upload any of the required supporting documents to your application, which means that if you want to respond to OPSC's 15-day or 4-day letters using OPSC Online, you can definitely do so. You can also track the status of your applications and view your eligibility baselines to plan for funding opportunities. And if you're not familiar with what eligibility baselines are, I'll explain what they are later in the presentation. And then you can also manage users and contact information for your district, which includes creating delegates to fill out applications on behalf of your district. You can also determine funding scenarios and estimate grants using the grant calculator, which I'll demonstrate today. And there's more that you can do with OPSC Online, but again, we won't be able to cover it all. So these are just what we'll be going over in today's workshop. And lastly, we are migrating more of our processes online, and we're actively adding new features and improving the system for ease of use. For example, we're looking to add an option to submit grant agreements and an option to submit financial hardship requests online. So if you get used to the system now, you'll be ready to take advantage of the new features as soon as they're released. And if you have suggestions or ideas for new features, I'll have an email address at the end of the presentation where you can send them to. Okay, so next we'll talk about how to access OPSC Online. This yellow link gives you access to OPSC Online, but I'll also demonstrate where you can find it on our website. On our website, it's under the Resources tab, then the page that says Online Application Tools for School Construction Projects, and OPSC Online will be one of the links on that page, and I'll demonstrate where this is. So this is OPSC's homepage. First, go to the Resources page, which is in the red box. Then from the Resources page, click on the Online Application Tools for School Construction Projects. Then once you click on that, you'll be on this page with all of our online tools. In the purple box, we have our OPSC Online User Guide, which I encourage you to check out. It'll walk you through some of the things I'm showing today, plus some other features, and it's just a great beginner's guide to using the system. Then in the red box, this link takes you to the OPSC Online System. After you click on that, this is what the main login page looks like for OPSC Online. I'll just zoom in on the middle so you guys can see it a little easier. Notice that there's an option to reset your password here. You can also request a new account, but that link will just give you information that I'm about to discuss on the next slide. And then lastly, the OPSC Online User Guide is linked here as well. So now I'll talk about account setup and how you can get started with using OPSC Online. If you were a school district representative or superintendent as of December 10th of 2018, we automatically created an account for you in the system. Around this time, you should have received an email about setting up an account, and that email went to whatever email account was on file with OPSC at the time. If you're a newer district representative or superintendent, or you were one back then and you just didn't create an account during that time, and you need help setting up your account now, then feel free to email this email address right here, opsconlinesupport@dgs.ca.gov, or any of the contacts that I'll show at the end of the presentation to assist with the account setup. We can also help with other account login issues, like if the system says your account is locked or you just can't remember the email that you have with the system. If you're not a superintendent or district representative, then you can get your account set up by a superintendent or district representative, and I'll show you today how you can do this in the system. We can also help with these delegate accounts, but in order to be given access to a district's applications, the district will have to authorize you using their account or give us permission to authorize you for them. And there is one limitation in our system related to this, which I'll mention when we demonstrate creating an account. Okay, so once you log in, this is what you'll see, and this is the main dashboard. Again, this is a test environment, so the information here is not real. So on the upper right in this red box, these icons in this menu bar will take you to specific tools. This dashboard icon takes you back to this main page at any time. And what you'll actually see on this page in the orange box is a list of the most recent 25 applications with activity in them. So you'll mainly be seeing the newest applications or the applications being worked on this page. For each application, there's the application name, the program type, status, the application, the site, and then some other details about each application. Note that if you're a delegate, you can actually be assigned to multiple districts. So you'll see all the applications for all the districts you're assigned to. And then the last thing on this page is this search box, which will allow you to search for any of the applications for your district. Okay, next I'll talk about user roles, which are just roles associated with every account to describe the permissions available to that account. First, we have school district representatives and superintendents who are authorized representatives on OPSC's records. Superintendents are listed on CDE's website, and district representatives have been authorized by a Form SAB 5003 submittal to OPSC. If you're a superintendent not in our system, then you can just send us an email and we'll make the change to the district information after we verify that the superintendent is listed on CDE's website. If you're a district representative not in our system, then you'll have to submit a new 5003 to be added as an authorized representative. Then we have delegates who are designated by a district representative or superintendent to assist with completing applications. And again, delegates can be assigned to multiple districts. Then lastly, we have licensed architects and licensed design professionals who are designated by a district representative or superintendent to complete sections of an application specific to their roles, such as the 60% commensurate and the portion of the application related to DSA plans. So I put the user roles and their permissions in a chart here to make it easier to understand each user's capabilities. First, we have the architect and licensed design professionals who can view records, but they cannot add a delegate architect or other design professional for the district. They can create applications and upload documents to an application, but the difference between these two roles is that the architect can certify to the architect section, which contains the portion about the DSA approved plans and specifications, but the design professional can't. However, both roles can certify to the design professional section, which contains the 60% commensurate. And lastly, both of these roles cannot sign and submit the whole application. Note that oftentimes the architect and design professional is just one person filling both shoes. And in that case, you can just assign them as an architect so that they can certify to both sections. Next, we have the delegate, who would commonly be a consultant, and they have fewer permissions than architects and design professionals. Delegates can view records, but they also cannot add another delegate, architect, or design professional for the district. Delegates can create applications and upload documents to an application, but they of course can't certify to the pages specific to architects and design professionals. And then they also can't sign the application and submit it. And lastly, we have the district representative and superintendents who have the most permissions for a district. They can view records, add a delegate, add an architect or design professional. They can create applications, upload documents to an application, and sign and submit applications. The only thing they can't do is certify to the architect and licensed design professional sections, but they can assign appropriate professionals to those roles to do so. So with all these roles and permissions in mind, a typical application flow for your district might look like this. So you might have a delegate for a district who can create an application, upload all the supporting documents, and fill out every part of the application except for the architect section and the licensed design professional section, and then the final certification page. Then an architect can open up that same application and certify to the architect and design professional sections, like the 60% commensurate and the part related to DSA plans. And then finally, the district representative or superintendent can log in, open up that same application, sign the last page, and submit it. Okay, so now I'll demonstrate the steps for a district representative or superintendent to add a user to the district, and we'll also explore the user management page. So this is the user management page, and you can get to this page by clicking on the users icon at any time. As a reminder, only district representatives and superintendents have access to this page because they're the only ones who can manage users for the district. What you see here in the orange box is a list of all the users for the district. You can see in this example, I have a delegate set up named test user and an email and phone number associated for that user. This blue checkbox here in the active column identifies whether the user is active for the district or not. District representatives and superintendents can check or uncheck this if they want to modify the user's access to the district. So if a consultant is no longer working with the district, you would want to uncheck this so that they no longer can create apps or view records for your district. Okay, so to create a user, we can click this Create User button. Next, we'll be asked to enter in the information for the user we want to create. So I just entered some information here. Again, this isn't a real person. Then after entering in the necessary details, you can click Save and Continue. Here you'll want to click Add Access. And then you'll select the district to give the user access to and what role they'll have. Obviously for you guys, you can only give a user access to your district, but on our end, we can give access to any district, which is why it asks you to select. For this demonstration, I'm creating a delegate and I'm giving them an expiration date of the end of the year, which means that at the end of the year, the delegate will no longer have access to the district's files. This field is optional, but it's useful if you don't want to give them permanent access to your district. Then when you're done, hit save. And then click done to confirm everything. And now we see the user's profile that we just created. After doing this, the system should send an automated email to the user's email address we specified. And that email will give them an option to log in and then change their password. On the left in the orange box, we simply have the user's profile information like the email address and the phone number of the user. And then on the right in the purple box, we can see the user's access, but of course you'll only see their access to your district. So now that we created a user, if we go back to the user management page, we can see our newly added user. And that's the whole process for how to add a user. Now, the limitation I wanted to mention earlier is that if a district representative or superintendent tries to add a delegate who is already a delegate for another district, then you'll get an error that won't allow you to add them. If that happens or you encounter any other sort of error, just let us know and we'll help you with that setup. But that is a limitation that we're working on removing. Okay, next I'll show you the resources page. To get to this page, you can click on the resources icon in the top menu bar. All this page is access to some of the additional resources used to submit applications to OPSC. So if you're looking for a worksheet and can't find it on OPSC's main website, it might be here instead. And I'm not going to go over the files here, but I just wanted to show you in case you were wondering what the resources icon is for. Next, before I talk about funding applications, I'll briefly talk about the application statuses you might see for some of your applications. The first status you might see in OPSC Online is the submitted status, which just means that the application has been submitted to OPSC, but we have not yet started processing it. If the status says OPSC reviewing, that means we've received it and started processing it. If the status says 15-day letter or 4-day letter, that means there's an outgoing request from OPSC to the district and the district needs to respond within the allotted time frame. We still send out the letters via email to the district, but having this status allows you to easily log into OPSC Online and see the outstanding requests from us. The accounting status means that the application is done being processed in terms of program-related processing, but is now being processed by our accounting team. And then lastly, the SAB approved status means that the application is done being processed and it went to a state allocation board meeting and was approved there. Okay, now let's talk about funding applications. Again, this is going to just be a brief overview on funding applications. We do have an upcoming virtual training series for funding apps in OPSC Online, and I'll have the date and time of that at the end of the presentation. But I encourage you to check out that workshop for a deep dive on funding applications. So again, this is the main dashboard. This is the page you see when you log in, or if you click on the home dashboard icon, it takes you here. In the purple box, we have the funding apps for the district. From this page, you can create a new application by clicking on this button that says Create New Funding Application. Once you create a new application, you'll select some information such as the district, the program type. You'll enter a project tracking number and an application nickname. Note that at this time, once you enter an application nickname, you can't change it. but we're working on adding a feature to allow users to change the nickname after already setting it. Then once you click continue, you'll have an opportunity to enter all the details of the project, and you'll have a chance to upload documents to your funding application. I'm not going to walk through the process right now, but the future workshop about funding applications will give you a detailed walkthrough of the process. Next, we'll talk about the application management page. So from the main dashboard, if you click on any application here, for example, I'll click the application box in red for Bear Valley High. Once you click on the application, it takes you to the application management page for that specific application. On this page, there's a ton of tools here to help with the processing and tracking of your application. The application header in the blue box displays some information about the project, the application nickname, the project number, the application type, the site, and the project tracking number are on the application header. You can also see the original receive date here, and this is the date when the application was first submitted, which is important because that's the date that OPSC uses as the original receive date for the purposes of the workload list and the applications received beyond bond authority list. Then in the orange box right below, this shows the submitted versions and the draft versions of the application. The draft versions are just drafts, meaning they haven't been officially submitted. So until a district representative or superintendent actually submits a draft, it'll remain unprocessed. Drafts can be really useful for a couple of reasons. So delegates can create and fill out drafts and then let the district representative or superintendent know when the draft is ready to be submitted. Or a district can have us take a look at their draft if there's something on the app that they're unsure about. Then once the draft is actually submitted, it'll become a submitted version, which is what we actually process. If there are multiple submitted versions, which oftentimes there are, we'll always look at the newest version and count the older versions as superseded. In the red box, this shows all the uploaded supporting documentation for the specific application, and you can also attach documents here, which I'll go over in a second. And then on the left in the purple box, there are links and tools here for the processing of your application, such as if your application is a full funding and it had a previous design, it would show here as an associated application. The eligibility button here can take you to the district's baseline so you can see how much eligibility is available for the project. There's also accounting activity here for your project if it's reached that stage. And you can also see all the uploaded documents for each stage of your application. So here, if you click on the options of an application, you can actually duplicate a version of an application as a draft, which will make it easy to submit revised versions if you want to keep mostly the same details and just make a few minor revisions. And then you can also copy the link for an application, and this exists for a draft too. With the copy link button, you can easily link a submitted or draft version of an application if you want someone to double check that version, or if you're a delegate and you want to tell the district representative to submit a specific draft, you can send them a link which takes them directly to that draft. So the next thing I want to show is this review grants button. If you click on this button, it takes you to the review grants page of an application, which looks like this. So in this review grants page of an application, notice that there's two columns. This allows you to compare the grants of your application based on different CCIs or versions. In the left column, I have the grants for this application based on the 2020 CCI, and in the right column, I have the grants for this application based on the 2021 CCI, which is why if you look at the grant amounts in the right column, they're slightly larger. For both columns, I'm using version 1 of this application because that was the only version we had for this one, but you can certainly select and compare different versions if you have them. Still on the review grants page, if you keep scrolling down on this page, you can get a quick summary of the total grant amounts, and it actually breaks down the calculation of each grant, which is super useful. For example, looking at the base grant here, it breaks down how many pupils from each grade level is being requested. Then it uses the appropriate per pupil amount, and it gives you the subtotal of each grade level based on that information. So going back into the application management page for this test modernization application, you can upload documents or files to this application by clicking this button in the red box. Once you do that, you can browse your computer to select the files you want to upload, give them descriptions, select file types, and then click the green button that says Upload Files. Then once it's fully uploaded, you'll see the files here in that red box. Notice that I uploaded 2 files. And OPSC staff will also be able to see the uploaded files. So if we're requesting a document from you in a 15 or 4-day letter, you can simply just upload it here and let us know that it's been uploaded so we can take a look at it. And we'll see the date for when you uploaded the file too, which is useful for tracking submittals and making sure that we're all using the most up-to-date version of a specific document. So that's all I wanted to show you for funding applications. Next, we'll talk about eligibility applications. Everything related to eligibility will be in the district dashboard, which we can get to by first clicking on the district icon in the top menu bar. Once you click that, you'll see this page and it'll list all of the districts you have access to. Delegates might see multiple districts, but if you're a district representative or superintendent, you'll just see your one district. So once you're here, click on the specific district and it'll take you to the district's eligibility dashboard, which looks like this. On the district's eligibility dashboard, in the purple box, you'll see the district's eligibility applications. Like the dashboard for funding applications, this dashboard shows your eligibility applications and specific information about each application, such as the nickname, the status, the type, the enrollment year, the high school attendance area, and some other details. On the right in the red box is how you'll navigate to the district baselines, which I'll show you in a second. And then this blue button here that says New Eligibility Application is how you create a new eligibility app for the district. And if you click on that, then the system will ask you for some details to create a new eligibility app. You can select the application type, which is like new construction or mod, and then establishment or adjustment. Then enter in the other details like the high school attendance area, the enrollment year, and an application nickname. Then once you click continue, you'll fill out the eligibility applications like the Form SAB 5001, the 5002, and the 5003. I'm not going to walk through the process right now, but the future workshop about eligibility applications will show you the process pretty extensively. Okay, next we'll talk about how to view eligibility baselines. And for those of you who are unaware of what a baseline is, it's basically just a summary of the district's new construction and modernization eligibility. So you can see the district-wide new construction eligibility or for each high school attendance area if you file on that basis. And you can also see the district's modernization eligibility for each site. So back to the district's eligibility dashboard, in the red box where it says View Baselines, you can select which high school attendance area you want to view the baseline for. If your district files on a high school attendance area basis, go ahead and select the appropriate one. Otherwise, select district-wide, which is what I'll be doing for this example. So after clicking district-wide, in the red box, I can either select the new construction baseline for the whole district, or I can select the modernization baseline for a specific school site. For this example, I'll view the modernization baseline for Bear Valley High. And then what that does is it takes me to the eligibility for Bear Valley High. On this page in the red box is the header that shows you the details of the baseline you're looking at. So we're looking at the Alpine County Office of Education's baseline at the 00 high school attendance area, and the site is for Bear Valley High. In the purple box, it'll show the district's current eligibility based on all the adjustments that went to the state allocation board. And it'll also show the details of each individual adjustment, such as the number of pupil grants it was for, which board meeting it went to, and the type of adjustment based on the SFP regulations. At the bottom in the orange box is the district's pending adjustments. So these are adjustments that haven't yet gone to the board. So maybe it's a current eligibility application that is being processed by OPSC, or a funding application that's currently being processed by us that will result in an adjustment. And then it provides an estimated baseline of what the district's remaining eligibility would be after all these pending adjustments actually do go to the board. Now, the last tool I want to show you all today is the OPSC Online Grant Calculator. To access this tool, you can click on the calculator icon in the menu bar that says Grants, and it'll take you to this page. Note that this page can be accessed without being logged in, so anyone can go to the OPSC Online website and then click on this calculator icon to get here. We used to have a similar calculator on the OPSC homepage, which has now been replaced by this tool. And on this page, the first thing you do is you need to select a program type and a CCI year. Then we just fill out the details of the proposed project, like the project type, the pupil grants being requested, and the supplemental grants. And you don't have to fill out everything on this page, just the details that might affect an application's grant amount, but you probably should fill out everything just in case there's something that affects a grant that you may not have realized. Then once you're done filling out the details, you can click on the green Calculate Grants button. And then it calculates the grants, which shows on this page for the project. And like the review grants page for a funding application, it'll break down each grant and the calculation to determine each grant's amount. After you've calculated your grants and you want to change some details of the project, you can just change it here on the left, then scroll back down and click the calculate button again, and then it'll recalculate the grants for you. And that was it. That's all I wanted to cover today. Just to recap, here's what we talked about. We talked about OPSC Online and what it is. We talked about why you should use OPSC Online. We talked about how to access and log into the system and how to set up an account. We talked about the different user roles in the system. We discussed funding applications, eligibility applications, and eligibility baselines. And lastly, we went over the grant calculator and how to use it. So I hope you were able to get some useful information from this workshop. And if you've used the system before, I hope that you learned about a feature that you may not have known or been familiar with. And if you haven't used OPSC Online before, I hope this was a good basic overview for you to get started. I encourage all of you to try using the system for your next funding or eligibility application, or to even just check out your district's eligibility baseline or use the grant calculator to determine grant amounts. So before I open up for questions, I want to share some of the future trainings that I think will be really beneficial for continuing to understand what OPSC Online can do. On March 26th, we have the Eligibility Applications workshop, which will go over eligibility applications, and a lot of that will be taking place in OPSC Online. Then on March 30th, we have the Funding Applications workshop, which will go over funding applications, and a lot of that will be taking place in OPSC Online too. Then on April 13th, we have the workshop on the priority funding process, which you will want to tune into because you can also submit priority funding requests in OPSC Online now too. Then on April 15th, we have the CTE Reservation of Funds workshop, which won't really be taking place in OPSC Online, but is important for you if you have a current CTE project or want to have a future one. So I have a link to the OPSC Online System here, the online applications and tools page, and then OPSC's YouTube page at the bottom, where we'll be posting all of the workshops for this series. If you want to subscribe to our email list, which I highly encourage in order to be up to date on the most recent information regarding OPSC, you can subscribe to this list at www.dgs.ca.gov/OPSC/contact. Also, if you have any questions, you can find out who your county project manager is at that same webpage. If your county project manager can't answer your question, they'll find the appropriate person who can answer your question. So we really encourage you to reach out to us. And lastly, we'd really appreciate your feedback on this virtual training series, which you can send to this email address, opsccommunications@dgs.ca.gov. And it'll also help us improve the future workshops. Or if you have a specific topic for a virtual training series that you'd want us to do, you can send the request to that email as well. You can also send comments about OPSC Online and suggestions for features to that email too. So with that being said, does anyone have any questions about OPSC Online?